Motors is meeting with lawmakers on Capitol Hill later today to discuss her company's plan to cut 15,000 jobs and production.
PETA is already suggesting this. They want to replace beating a dead horse with feeding a fed horse. And it seems to me that the vegans suggesting these things are a few fries away from a Happy Meal.
This wouldn't make of America.
Wednesday in December, it's Fox and Friends live from Studio F. Thank you very much for joining us. It is a national day of mourning down in our nation's capital, and in fact, the federal government's going to be closed today. The market is closed. All flags on public buildings will be at half staff for the next 30 days to honor the life and times of the man who is in that casket, George Herbert Walker Bush, our 41st president.
His last full day in Washington, D.C. They will have a memorial service for him at the National Cathedral, and then he will be flown tomorrow to Houston, where there will also be a service for him there.
You know, it was my sense that when Ronald Reagan passed away, because we knew he was battling Alzheimer's and people thought it was imminent, just like we kind of knew H.W. Bush was suffering from a form of Parkinson's, that we knew this day would come. That I think that the outpouring of support and respect for this president, just like Ronald Reagan, I think has caught people by surprise, a pleasant surprise, but really has moved people in a way that I personally wasn't expecting. I always felt strongly about him, but I didn't know America felt this strongly about him.
Yeah, he was such a leader and such a serviceman to our country. It was 35 degrees yesterday in Washington, and people were waiting 3.5 hours to get in to pay their respects.
They were indeed. And the extraordinary thing about the news coverage, which has been effusive over the last 48 hours or so, is that when he was president, he did not get good coverage. He did not. And so I'm sure the Bush family in attendance at these events over the last couple of days are
touched.
Absolutely. That finally the nation recognizes all the good this man has done. Mike Emanuel is live outside the National Cathedral up in Washington, D.C. at one of the highest points in Washington, where the funeral service today is at 11. Mike?
That's right. Steve Ainsley, Brian, good morning to you. It should be very powerful later this morning when you have President Trump and the living former presidents gathered together to pray and be together to say farewell to former President George H.W. Bush. Let's take you live inside the United States Capitol Rotunda, where President Bush continues to lie in state ahead of the funeral later today. There were long lines of people all night and overnight, many ordinary Americans showing up, waiting in the cold, and it is chilly, for a couple hours for an opportunity to go in and pay their respects to the former president. The mood in there, very serious and respectful. Today is the National Day of Mourning, as ordered by President Trump, starting in the Capitol Rotunda, then here to the Washington National Cathedral, and then later the scene will shift to the St. Martin's Episcopal Church, the home church of the Bushes back in Houston. Former Governor Jeb Bush is reflecting on his father's purpose.
I'd say two things really gave him purpose. One was giving back to others. Family mattered. This is a time to celebrate George H.W. Bush, not to grieve his loss, and that's what we're doing as a family right now.
Late yesterday, you had former President George W. Bush and his wife Laura showing up in the rotunda, surprising some of the mourners, thanking them for turning out to pay their respects to his father. We will hear from the former president later today, one of 4 eulogists here at the Washington National Cathedral. Steve Ainsley, Brian.
All right, Mike, we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Reporting live from the National Cathedral.
One of the many moments that stood out for me yesterday, and maybe for you, was, you know, the fact that Jeb Bush and President Trump were rivals in the election leading up to 2016, getting the nomination. We know it got personal. We know that President Trump has been critical even on this show of President Bush, the Iraq War and other things in the past. Even made an offhand remark about 1,000 points of light. But they went out of their way last summer, reportedly, did the Bushes, to say, listen, if something happens to my dad or my grandfather, we want you included. There'll be no political foresight to President Trump, and we want you a part of this.
And yesterday we saw that.
And yesterday we saw that because they went over. Melania invited the Bush family, and now you're seeing the Trumps arrive in front of the Blair House, where Mr. and Mrs. Bush greeted Melania and Donald Trump. What's significant is, according to Dana Perino, Trump and Bush have never met face to face.
Oh, really? Wow. And then Melania, she showed Mrs. Bush around the White House, because the First Lady traditionally decorates or is in charge of the decorations at the White House, and she gave her a walkthrough
the whole family, extended family, and some of the cousins, they posed in front of Bush 41's portrait at the White House. I sense...
It's a coming together.
Yeah, there's a coming
Healing
together.
moment.
Yeah, and I sense we have seen the last of any negativity between the families.
There were a lot of
from here
touching
on in.
moments yesterday. Something that really stuck out to us, too, was this precious little Boy Scout. Watch this. We have video of him standing there in front of the casket. He took his hat off, just put it back on, and then he salutes the president. And he stood there for a long time.
He did. We do not know this kid's name. If you know it, email us, friends@foxnews.com. In one of the side shots, you can see that he's from Troop 119 from the National Capital area. But look at him right
How
there.
precious is that? He's taking his job seriously.
He's absolutely paying respects. That is something you do not see a lot of these days, and God bless that little
Yes.
boy.
And
But
if
you
your
would expect
parents
it to
are
come from
watching,
a Boy
good
Scout.
job.
Yeah, you expect it from a Boy Scout. I mean, they have taught respect, kindness, responsibility. That's what they do.
Yeah, another touching moment. Bob Dole, former senator and congressman from the great state of Kansas, he is 95 years old. Look at that. A man helps him stand up, which is something that is really difficult for him to do.
And then-
he salutes the president.
Let's just watch this. It is hard for him. One-time political rivals. They twice competed to be president of the United States. He just was there. He's very frail, eyes fixed on the casket. And after that salute, Jeb, George Herbert Walker Bush's son, tweeted out, "Just incredible. Thank you, Senator Dole."
And Jeb Bush said something interesting. He said, "This is a tribute to my dad. It's not a sad occasion." I actually think the country's sad. I really do. I think there's still a tribute, but I think there's a sadness.
Well, I think-
Even though he lived his life to 94,
But I
I think
think
there's a sadness.
His whole story. I mean, the fact that he was stranded in the middle of the ocean, the submarine picks him up. Those men don't know he's going to go on to become president. He was asking God when he's out there in the middle of the water, "God, do you have something bigger for me?" And clearly, he obviously did. And then to go on and serve his country in so many ways and in different political roles, and to have this thriving business. He has a great love for the state of Texas. His family's there. They're involved in the community. To go on to become president, raise a son that becomes president. We all love this man. And to know that he lived such a full life, a rich life.
He did. I think it's been very instructive the last couple of days or so since he passed, because so many people now know what happened when he was president of the United States.
Devoted family man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people are now saying, you know, he could be the most consequential one-term president in American history. When you look at the fall of the Soviet Union, you look at all the things he did, how he was able to assemble a national coalition to try to liberate Kuwait. He was an extraordinary man, and that is why so many people have come out to honor the life and times of George Herbert Walker Bush.
It was about a year ago when Michael Flynn took a plea and decided to cooperate with the Mueller probe. A lot of it has to do with the fact that, you know, you don't become rich when you're a general. And he was being bled dry by legal fees. So he was National Security Advisor for a while. He got fired because he didn't tell the truth.
Lost his house as a result, right?
Right, yeah. He got fired because he didn't tell the truth about his talk with Ambassador Kislyak of Russia to Vice President Pence, who went on national television and said it. That's the story. Now we find out more of the story. When Robert Mueller, after dealing with 19 separate interviews with Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, has decided to recommend no jail time. He was only looking at 6 months max, but he recommended no jail time because of this.
Well, I'm confused. I thought he's the guy who met with the Russian ambassador. He's the guy who it sounded like was all involved in collusion. And yet, the very basis of this whole Mueller investigation has been figure out how the Trump administration, if they colluded with the Russians. This was essentially the point person there during the transition. And if he's getting 0 jail time, that should tell you a lot about the state of collusion.
But he got it because they claim that he's cooperating. So what did he say? We don't know, because most of the stuff is redacted.
But where's the collusion part? There is no mention of that.
But there's no report yet.
There's no mention of collusion so far.
Well, Rudy kept saying there was no collusion. This is what the memo said from the special counsel. Given the defendant's substantial assistance, apparently he helped him out, answered all their questions, and other considerations set forth below, a sentence at the low end of the guideline range, which was 0 to 6 months, including a sentence that does not impose a term of incarceration, is appropriate and warranted.
Adam Schiff writes, the recommendation of no jail time for Flynn, apart from the obvious irony for the man who led the Don't Lock Her Up reflects both the timeliness and significance of his help. Most of the details are redacted, signals he has given far more than we or the president may know. That's the flip side of it. Does the redaction show that he revealed something that we don't know?
Well,
My sense is a guy that grew up and came of age in the Cold War, and if you read his book, would never, ever collude with the Russians on anything against the United States.
It sounds as if, given some of the reporting in the Washington Post, a lot of the redactions regard other investigations he's been helpful in. We don't know the extent of that.
Well, some in the media are saying, oh, it's just gearing up. It's going to keep going. And, you know, maybe they'll find out if there's collusion or figure out if there was collusion. But then you have others on the other side that say this is winding up because additional sentencing memos are expected for Michael Cohen and
Friday.
for Paul Manafort as well. So maybe this is wrapping up soon.
That's what Michael Isikoff, who wrote Russian Roulette, says that his indications are it's wrapping up. We all need to wrap it up.
All right. In the meantime, 7-Eleven in New York City, and Carly joins us with some news.
That's right. Interesting debate, guys. And we begin with a Fox News alert. Family members confirm the body found outside an Airbnb in Costa Rica is missing Florida woman Carla Stefaniak. A security guard is under arrest after giving conflicting statements to investigators. Officials say he immigrated from Nicaragua in June and was staying in the room next to Carla. The body has multiple stab wounds and head injuries. Carla was in Costa Rica to celebrate her birthday. And a gang member executed overnight for his role in the murder of a police officer. Joseph Garcia put to death by lethal injection in Texas. He's a member of Texas 7, a gang of inmates who escaped prison in the year 2000. The group committed several robberies, including one on Christmas Eve, where Dallas officer Aubrey Hawkins was shot and killed. 4 of the gang members have been executed so far. Russia is threatening to retaliate if the U.S. ditches their nuclear treaty. Now, moments ago, Vladimir Putin said if the U.S. starts developing intermediate range missiles, so will Russia. Yesterday, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced that the U.S. will back out of the 1987 INF treaty unless Russia has a change of heart. U.S. officials have accused the Russians of breaking the agreement, which bans both countries from having certain mid-range missiles. And after speculating that nobody wanted the job, Kevin Hart will host the 2019 Oscars. The comedian calling it the opportunity of a lifetime. Just hours before the announcement, The Hollywood Reporter called the gig the least wanted job in Hollywood. Ratings have slipped steadily in recent years, including the last 2 shows hosted by, there you see him, Jimmy Kimmel. So Kevin Hart, he's on deck.
Movie star comedian.
That's
he should
right.
be great.
Yes.
All right.
I don't think so. I think he's already spent a lot of time insulting Trump lately, so he'll probably use that venue again.
Well, let's see. Yeah. All right. Meanwhile, on this one, thank you, Carly. Coming up, Defense Secretary James Mattis issuing a new order at the border as Democrats make new demands about a wall. We're live with the growing fight over the caravan in Mexico, coming up next.
Plus, he's an advocate for climate change, but it turns out Bernie Sanders spent some serious cash to fly private. What was he flying on? I don't know, ethanol?
All right, the U.S. Pentagon has extended the mission at our southern border.
Thousands of troops will remain at the U.S.-Mexico border until the end of January. You know, the troops that we didn't need?
Well, Todd Pyro is live in the newsroom as Democrats push a controversial security plan. Todd, tell us about it.
Steve Ainsley and Brian, good morning. The caravan crisis keeping more of those who serve away from their families longer on the heels of more scenes like this. Continued breaches of the U.S. border, prompting Defense Secretary Jim Mattis to issue this statement. Quote, the Secretary of Defense has approved an extension of the ongoing Department of Defense support to the Department of Homeland Security response to migrant caravan arrivals. DoD support to DHS is authorized until January 31st, 2019. You can see here Customs and Border Patrol holding a readiness drill, ramping up its response to the crisis. Democrats saying they would accept $1.6 billion for border security so long as the language makes clear the money would not be used to build a wall. But the president standing firm on his $5 billion request for the wall, tweeting, could somebody please explain to the Democrats, parentheses, we need their votes, that our country loses $250 billion a year on illegal immigration, not including the terrible drug flow. Top border security, including a wall, is $25 billion, pays for itself in 2 months. Get it done. And while there are reports of fewer migrants at local shelters in Tijuana, an official with the local migrant council says about 3,000 migrants are unaccounted for. Some of those could have crossed the border into the U.S. Back to you.
We just don't know. All right, Todd, thank you very much.
Okay.
And as Todd just said, you know, the president is looking for something north of $1.6 billion, which is what the Senate, Democrats in the Senate want to give him. They're not going to give him another nickel. He can declare it a win if he gets it closer to $5 billion. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Stephen, not only that, the 1.6 isn't for the wall, it's for border security.
That's what he just said.
So that's
for a
the
wall,
problem.
right.
And the thing is, there's more than one problem. But my sense is the president's not giving up on this. And he was talking to Democrats yesterday. He brought them over to the White House.
He's going to need their help to get it passed during the lame duck, and that doesn't look like it's going to happen.
All right, if you guys have some time, if you don't mind, I'll read the tease. Tell you what's going on. Great. Some Democrats are accused of being out of touch with American voters, but one senator says there's a reason for that.
We Democrats know so much, that is true. And we have to kind of tell everybody how smart we are.
Exactly. David Bossie here to react.
And this 9-year-old has everyone talking this morning. He fought his town's ban on snowball fights, and he won. He's live with us. There he is. Look at how cute
Got
he
the bow tie.
is.
Good morning, Dane Best.
All right, time now for news by the numbers. Let's get started. First, 12 million pounds. That's how much raw beef is being recalled by over a salmonella outbreak. Arizona meat processor JBS makes the beef. More than 200 people in 26 states have gotten sick. Next, nearly $300,000. That's how much Senator Bernie Sanders' campaign spent to cross the country in a private jet. I thought he cared about the climate. That, according to the FEC, with little dashes in between F and C. Sanders flew private to campaign on behalf of candidates in 9 states. But that is not a good excuse. I'll go to my third spot. And finally, $435. That's the price of a luxury bag made from old Amtrak train seats. The campaign teaming up with a nonprofit group to upcycle more than 6,000 leather covers from 20 retired trains. Other items start at just $75. Now to my colleagues.
Joel, who does the walk better, Steve or Brian?
Please.
Oh.
It's me. I invented it.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
All right.
Brian says he invented the walk.
Well, I think he says he invented walking. All right. Meanwhile, in Severance, Colorado, snowball fights have been against the law for nearly 100 years. But that 9-year-old boy vowed to fight for the right to have some winter fun and throw a snowball.
I know. It's such a great story. Third grader Dane Best started a petition that snowballed into a complete overturn of the ban. Dane joins us now to tell us all about it. So, Dane, why did you want to change the law there?
Because I thought it was an outdated law, and there's no reason you can't throw snowballs in Colorado or Severance.
That's right. You're in Colorado. So, Dane, have you figured out why did they ban snowball fighting 100 years ago?
They never knew why they did.
They
never said.
They never said. So, you went to your mom and you asked her about this, and what did she say?
She said, I asked her if she could do it, and she said that I would have to do it. She would help me a little bit.
In changing the law.
You have a really good mom. So what did you do? How did you prepare before you went in front of the lawmakers?
We made a PowerPoint, and we told them the definition of a snowball fight and what, like, how long it's been in the book law.
Right. We know what you mean. It's been against the law for 100 years. And so the whole town council agreed with you, and it was unanimous, and they said, you're right, kids should be able to have a snowball fight. So afterwards, to celebrate, where did you get that snowball?
The mayor found some snow, and he made a snowball, and he put it in the freezer until the night, until I threw the snowball.
That is so cool. You know what? I love the fact that a kid can change the law. Did you feel like in the very beginning you were going to be able to do that? The adults were going to listen to you?
Kind of.
You knew that they kind of would?
Yeah, but kind of wouldn't and kind of would.
Yeah, you never
So
know.
what was it? How did you celebrate? What did you do when you found out they're changing the law? Did the whole room go crazy?
Yeah, they all started clapping.
That's
and how did
great.
you feel?
Pretty excited.
Yeah, and so then you went outside. The mayor gave you this snowball that he had kept in the freezer after he shakes your hand and presents you with that plaque. Who'd you throw the snowball at?
He told me to just throw it in the street.
Yeah, okay.
Now, I read that you told your mama that you wanted to throw a snowball at your brother. Is that true? And what was her advice?
Yeah, but she didn't really want me to throw it at his face or that hard.
Yeah.
You have a good mom.
Don't hit him in the face. All right, so you have changed the law out there in Colorado, but now you've got your sights on another ordinance involving pets, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
You can only have a cat and a dog, and you can only have 3 of them. And you can't have like a guinea pig or a hamster or fish.
So the law out there defines a pet as either a cat or a dog, and you want them to expand that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And do you think
I think
you
you're
can
going
do
to win that
I
one.
think you are too. Why do you want to do that? Do you want another pet?
Well, I have a guinea pig right now.
That's right.
You do, but you're allowed to have it. It's just not considered a pet, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, all right. I think you're going to win that one. All right. Hey, I got a question for you, Dane. What do you want to be when you grow up?
I'm going to be president, so I get the whole White House to myself and I can make more changes.
Okay, so let's say you're president. What's the first thing you'd change?
I don't know.
Longer recess, maybe?
Got a little while to think about it.
Yeah,
good.
longer recess.
All right, that's good. All right.
You're so cute. Well, we wish you all the best. Thank you so much for coming on. You have quite a future.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. 9-year-old Dane Best, future president of the United States.
Would you track your child using GPS bracelets? It could soon become a reality.
Might be handy, but then again, maybe not. Plus, some Democrats are accused of being out of touch with American voters, but one U.S. senator says there's a reason for that.
We Democrats know so much that is true, and we have to kind of tell everybody how smart we are.
Okay, David Bossie from Citizens United, here with your reaction coming up next.
The crumbs that they are giving to workers to kind of put the schmooze on is so pathetic.
The economy is still rigged against working people.
Last year, we gave the military a $700 billion budget increase, which they didn't even ask for.
The ideas that we campaigned on, which a few years ago were seen to be radical ideas, are now mainstream.
Are they mainstream? To some, they kind of sound out of touch with the American voters, but one Democrat claims that's not why the left is having trouble winning over voters. Listen to this one.
We Democrats have a really hard time is connecting to people's hearts instead of here. We Democrats know so much that is true, and we have to kind of tell everybody how smart we are.
We have to tell people how smart we are. Here with reaction, former Trump deputy campaign manager and co-author of Trump's Enemies, David Bossie. David, that's what your side needs to do. You need to tell people how smart you are.
Yeah. You know, winning elections is about connecting to people, and that's the problem for the Democrats. Whether it's Nancy Pelosi years ago saying we have to pass this bill before you know what's in it, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, you name the Democratic leader or presidential nominee, they're disconnected with the American people. One of the reasons that Donald Trump won is because he said what he meant and meant what he said. And that is the difference maker. He's not a traditional politician. You hear these Democrats, they don't understand your average American, what their plight is, what they're going through, how they want to have a better schools, better health care for their children. to be able to put food on the table, buy the house, have that American dream. That's every American across every way that the Democrats try to do their divisive politics and try to segment people out. That's fundamentally what Americans want, and that's why Donald Trump really won in 2016 was his ability to talk directly to the American people.
Well, you were on the campaign trail with him and you worked with him. You saw how he interacts with his voters and with middle America. What exactly is that like for the people at home that haven't had a chance to meet him? How does he connect?
You know, Ainsley, I think folks can get a real sense through the rallies. If you look at the folks come in the tens of thousands to see this president rally after rally. It is like a rock concert. It's really the closest thing you could say or compare it to. It's an event. People come and they spend hours and hours to get into the venue. They spend hours waiting, and then they have the time of their life. The pre-event of Donald Trump is filled with entertainment, and then the president comes and he speaks directly to you. He says the things that you want to hear, that you want other politicians to say, but they're not courageous enough to say it.
But David, a couple of things. There's two issues that are coming to the president. Number one, he's always said the wall and the border's a problem. My goodness, we see video every day. Tell the people at Tijuana that he's wrong. He's right. And then number two is this Paris climate change. Australia is joining us, along with Brazil, saying we got a real problem with this. They're hosting the Paris climate change meeting in Poland, which is fueled by pure coal, and they say we're not going to leave coal behind. We got 200 years worth of supply. However, he does not have the ear of the next generation, and he does not have the minority community. How does he get it?
Well, I think he stays on track. You look at what he's doing with criminal justice reform, what he's willing to do, okay, whether I agree with him or not, on making a deal on immigration reform, whether it's getting the wall in return for some of these DACA recipients, whatever the case might be. This president is a deal maker. If the Democrats only would put America first, like this president, they would come to the table with deals that he would be willing to make on infrastructure and other things that maybe some Republicans, conservatives, would have a problem with. They're going to find a friend in Donald Trump because he wants what's best for America.
So he's willing to take. You just say you're a conservative, and you just told him to cut a deal with Democrats. You're okay with that?
Well, look, Ronald Reagan did it. Ronald Reagan did it with Tip O'Neill routinely.
Herbert Walker Bush did it.
George Bush did it. Look, you have to do that as president. You have to say we're going to take 70 or 80% of our loaf, in essence, and then we can argue and debate for the next 20% later.
I agree.
Compromise, the art of the deal, right?
Yep.
That's what this president is so good at. And I will just end on this with that thought is the new Congress coming in with investigation after investigation after investigation is going to be out of control. And unless Nancy Pelosi can get control over her caucus, which I don't think she can, this president's not going to be open to much compromise because he is going to be under their subpoena cannon, which is their words. And I think that you're going to see Democrats just want to impeach this president and investigate him at every turn, which in turn slows the entire administration down.
Right. David Bossie, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. It is about 22 minutes before the top of the hour on this very busy Wednesday. And Carly joins us with some law enforcement news.
Yeah, that's right. A scary story here. A sheriff praising a South Carolina woman after she defended herself against an escaped inmate who broke into her home. The woman firing a single shot, killing the suspect.
This was a big guy. If she hadn't had a weapon, no telling what would have happened. She saved her life and stop the bad guy.
Wow. Well, he and another inmate assaulted guards at the Pickens County Prison before escaping. The other inmate is back in custody. Thousands of top Republicans' emails stolen in a massive hack during the midterms. Politico reports email accounts of 4 top aides at the National Republican Congressional Committee were breached after they hired cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike. Now, that is the same firm involved when DNC servers were hacked in 2016. The new breach was first discovered in April. And a college dean wants students to call themselves freshmores, not freshmen. According to student newspaper Appalachian State University, Jefford Volbush introduced the term as a non-gender specific way to address first-year students. It's meant to make the North Carolina school more inclusive. The dean claims his term is already starting to catch on. And it's starting to look a lot like Christmas at Chipotle, the Mexican grill unveiling a holiday window display at one New York City store, and it's completely edible. The new scene is going up every day this week using only ingredients from the restaurant. You can see here a tree made of lettuce filled with lemons, limes, and tomatoes as ornaments. I've always said that edible decorations are better than non-edible decorations.
You've never said that, Carly.
Always
ever.
said it.
You have never said
Every
that.
year.
So eating your Christmas tree is what you would like to do.
That would actually be a pretty good idea. Then you don't have to haul it out of your house.
Yeah, garbage
It's
men
like a
would love it.
gingerbread house. You can eat that. Now you can eat your
Take it from
Christmas
the
tree.
living room into the dining room.
I love it.
But no one eats a gingerbread house. They pretend to
If you
eat it.
forget to put milk and cookies out, Santa can eat the tree. I
All
love
right,
it.
Carly.
That's a good idea.
Thank you. All right, let's go
Santa
out.
loves lettuce.
Let's go out to the streets of New York City.
It's a proven fact.
Janice Dean, it's cold.
Oh my gosh, it's so cold. Are you guys cold? A little bit. I don't feel my hands.
Where you from? We're from Louisiana.
But you're all dressed so appropriately, and I am not. You're having fun so far in New York? Look at how cute these hats are. Where'd you get these hats?
Right down the corner.
And that matches my coat right here. You're gonna have to get me one. All right, I'm going with you. Is it indoors? We're going.
No, it's outdoors.
Outdoors. Okay, let's take a look at the maps while I start to hug with my new friends. It feels like, well, we're not even registering here in New York. It feels like 17 in Boston. It feels like 13 in Buffalo. So it's cold. And if there is any precipitation, it's going to be in the form of snow. We have a little system moving across the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley. And then our next big weather maker is moving across the west with rain and mountain snow there. That one is actually going to bring the potential for not only a winter storm across the south, but we're going to see an icing potential and the threat for severe storms, including maybe some tornadoes on Friday. All right, can I can you guys get close and we can all get together and hug? Okay, thank you. Okay, bye, Stephen Ainsley, Brian.
All right, Janice, I looked it up. Wind chill's 24 where you are right now.
Yikes. It's the wind that gets you. It's not even the cold.
It shouldn't be surprising to her that it's cold out.
Here's the thing. She's the weather woman, and she should be wearing some gloves.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Zip in the liner.
All right. Meanwhile, straight ahead on this Wednesday, a major victory for free speech and for conservatives. The University of California at Berkeley settling a lawsuit with college Republicans. One of the attorneys on that case here with live reaction.
Plus, Robert Mueller says Michael Flynn should not go to jail because he cooperated with the special counsel. But Kim Strassel says after 18 months, it's hard to believe there's anything new out there.
Hey.
Kim Strassel in person, I can't believe it.